So again, thank you all for being here for our second meeting for our advocacy days. This is really exciting to have so many of you here, and thank you for taking the time and joining us. And we have Colette here from the National Hemophilia Foundation and many others, some speakers, so it's going to be really a cool meeting. So I want to just make sure that you go ahead and keep yourself muted unless you're asking a question. Keep your backgrounds. Let us see your face if you can, because it's really super cool to be talking to a lot of people. So I thank you for that. I also want to thank all of our, obviously our members that are here tonight, whether you're going to state days or not. Thank you for being here and just learning about some of the concerns that we have. Thank you to our coalition members, to our partner organizations, our stakeholders, and our 2021 Advocacy Day sponsors, which is Pharma, Genentech, Octapharma, Takeda, Drugco, CSL Behring, and we were awarded again the prestigious NHF grant for the state-based advocacy coalition. So we want to thank NHF for that. And their sponsors are Novo Nordisk, Bayer, Genentech, Takeda, Santa Fe Genzyme, CSL Behring, and the Hemophilia Alliance. So on that note, I'm going to turn this over to Crystal, our Advocacy Day chair. She's going to give you some remarks and welcome you here. So Crystal.
Hello, sorry, I'm trying to organize this anyway. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's so good to see everybody's faces and hear and talk to everyone. We're gonna, do all we can, and it just means a lot to us that we are staying this active and staying this positive and making a difference. So we're still plunging ahead.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, so as I said, we have with us hopefully today, we have Adam Morgan. He is the South Carolina representative. He's my representative and my son as well. He's in District 20 of Taylor's in Greenville. And many of you may have realized this picture from last year. He came out and he was such a delight to have with us. He had such a positive attitude and really provided us some good insight. So we invited him again. He said he'll be here. So hopefully he's going to log in about 7:15. So once we see him, we're going to stop our talking and give him the floor. He's going to do his insights on South Carolina, what's happening in the State House, and then also hopefully provide us just some insight of how you can have an effective meeting. We're also going to kind of give you a practice show, so bear with us. Our family's going to have a meeting with him because he is our state legislator, and you guys can kind of see what your meetings will be like. So we hope that might help you out as well. So as we go into heading into our Advocacy Awareness State Days, it's important that we educate our state legislators on bleeding disorders and share our stories of why it matters for us, for them to understand our concerns and understand bleeding disorders. So this video, I love to show a little bit of video, so I'm going to show this one. This one just kind of talks about who we are, what we do, and kind of gives a bigger picture of our organization and then what we need for advocacy within our community. So So that's it. That is a little bit about us. So that video is on our YouTube channel, and it can be loaded onto all of our iPad constituents. So please share that as much as you want. Just kind of gives us a glimpse of who we are and what we do and what we need in support and advocacy. So on that note, let me just quickly go through again and brag again about all of our Advocacy Coalition members, our stakeholders, many that are here today. We have Colette. I know we have let's see, Allison, we have Tony, and I think a couple others. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate that. I'm going to brag, after our last meeting, we got some new advocacy members. So Corey Snyder representing Spartanburg County and Mandy Weber representing Greenville. This little map right here, hopefully you can follow there it is. Follow my little pointer here. We'd love to get you guys all in here. We're keeping track. So there's not a whole lot of work, but showing up for meetings and knowing what you're doing and being a part of our grassroots advocacy program. We also had new members in the mid-state. So welcome Maddie Watkins from Richland County, Jean Wilson from Lexington County, and Brentley Smith representing Richland County. And we also have Tim Schwamberg down in Dorchester County. So again, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate that. So you're going to meet some of our advocates later on. We're going to talk to Colette. You're going to talk to Tony Mitchell, and Aaron Smith will be with us as well. So let me go ahead and stop my share. And is the representative here, Greg?
Not yet. I haven't.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start with Tony. Tony, would you mind providing us with a little bit of the kind of do's and don'ts and your remarks on having an effective advocacy day?
Sure. So Sue, thank you so much for having me today. I'm always happy to help out the South Carolina chapter. You guys are easily one of my favorite chapters to work with because you guys know what you're doing. And I'm happy to kind of go through this presentation on just some of the do's and don'ts of advocacy as you guys prepare to go through some of your meetings for your advocacy day. One thing I like to remind everyone of, is, as you go and have these meetings with your representatives, please don't be afraid. I think that there is a stigma of the fact that, these people represent, House and Senate districts, and people go into those meetings a bit nervous. But the reality of the situation is they represent you. You put them there in office. You hold the power in these situations. So if anything, they should be intimidated by you. Not that we want anyone to be intimidated. So the first thing I like to just kind of reiterate is like the power of you. You all have the power to just positively impact anything that you guys want to push through advocacy. I think your experiences are going to set the tone, and they're the best, resource when it comes to like making advocacy decisions on bleeding disorders, because you've lived it. This is your life, or your child's life, or someone that you're related to. You guys have the most experience, and that's what really counts. And so awareness really does start with you all. The second thing that I want to kind of touch on is the fact that, when you're engaging public officials, you want to have in your mind, what is your purpose when you're having these conversations? So you want to know your objective. If you're going there to have an educational conversation, make sure that you're aware of this. So educational, to draw attention to an issue, to ask for supportive legislation. I know Sue has been very, very big in working with some of the RDAC legislation for the Rare Disease Advisory Council. So make sure that you have an understanding of what you're going in to have the conversation about. I think we can all attest to the COVID environment has kind of brought a different flair to everything that we're doing. And the legislature certainly isn't, any different. I was on a Ways and Means video meeting today, and they were talking about, Sue, exactly what you talked about earlier with, how do we put people into the 1A vaccination category? And there were a lot of people who were talking about the fact that their vaccinations have gotten canceled, and the state is being a bit overbeared with, the fact that they don't have the resources right now. So think about all of these things as you're going into your meetings, because you want to be succinct. You want to make sure that you're being direct, because as you can imagine, the legislators are also just kind of overburdened with a bunch of different issues. So they want people who can speak to their issues succinctly and get their point across very, very, very easily. Also, do your research. If there's a legislator that you're talking to in your district, I know a lot of you guys are pros because you've been doing this for quite some time, but look and see if the legislator has supported any legislation in the past that has affected the bleeding disorder community. Look at the committees that they sit on. Make sure that the bills that they have, either yayed or nayed or supported or non-supported. These are all things that as you're having your conversation, they can help build a more robust relationship between you and the legislator, because you can say, hey, I really want to thank you for supporting X, Y, Z. And that is nothing more that legislators love than to get patted on the back. So as you're talking to them, and you can throw them a bone and say like, hey, we really appreciate you for your support in the past. We support you. We appreciate you supporting our red tie challenge, whatever it is. If you can draw a point of distinction between you and them, or you and the district, or whatever that may be, to draw some commonality, make sure that you do that. Also, just be mindful of where we are in the legislative cycle. I know right now we're in the month of February, so right now we're pretty early on, but at some point in time, the legislators are going to be looking at budgetary things and moving things a bit faster. So always be aware of where we are in the legislative cycle, because that's also something that's very, very helpful. And then, as you go into your meetings, take some time, take some time to prep, develop your message, to walk through your points. If you have to get a notepad, I think in this virtual environment, it becomes a little easier because you can literally have your notes on your screen as you talk to them, put them next to your video and say, hey, boom, 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 these are the points. And I know some of us get nervous, but if you can have those points there to kind of help guide you through your conversation, sprinkle a little bit of your personal experience in the middle of that, and the conversation will go smooth. Because I kid you not, the easiest way to move legislation is through personal stories. Legislators get tired of hearing from people like me whose job it is to do lobbying, and they want to hear about people in their community and in their districts that are dealing with issues and how they can be of help. Especially in an environment where COVID is rampant and so many people do need help. So just make sure that you have a story, develop your story, make sure you have your bullet points, and just be able to talk succinctly. Don't be afraid to educate your legislator, because at the end of the day, you may start your meeting off as like, hey, how much do you know about bleeding disorders? And for some legislators, that may be nothing. That you may have to give them a brief one-on-one on your own. And what better person to walk them through that, walk them through your morning. Well, hey, when I wake up, this is what I go through. When my target joints, they may be aching. I may not be able to move my limbs as fully as I want to. What better person to walk them through that experience than a person that has to deal with it on a day-to-day basis? So you guys are going to be the best people that can do that. I also want to say that just practice. You got time. You can't go into any meeting just thinking that like, hey, I can wing it. Practice, 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 and your meetings will go a lot smoother. Another thing that I want to say is like when you're developing your elevator pitch, and that should be a pitch that you can kind of walk the legislator through in a couple of minutes. I always go through the 4C approach. You want to be concise, clear, compelling, and credible. If you can tackle those 4 C's, concise, clear, compelling, and credible, you'll have the legislator eating out the palm of your hand. And I want people to be aware of, I think it's different on the state and the federal level. But as we have these conversations with legislators, I think people who are new to advocacy tend to think that like, hey, I go into these meetings, I have this conversation, and then what if nothing happens? The reality of it is advocacy is a process. Sometimes it takes 2 years, sometimes it takes 3 years, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for things to happen, just especially in this environment that we're in now. I know there are a few states that I've been working in that the legislators are looking to only pass budgetary items. I don't think that's the case in South Carolina, because I was on a hearing today where they're looking at COVID-related items. So again, just be mindful of, the fact that like legislation and advocacy is taking a chip away at the tree. Every year you're taking chips out of the tree, and then, hey, come one year, everything comes falling down. So again, don't be discouraged. I always want to just be encouraged throughout this journey. And I think you guys will be great. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have in the meantime. I think it's really hard to, this may be a lot for some people that are new, but again, you are the person that's in control. You are the person that knows the story the best. You are the person that can educate. And again, make sure that you're looking to educate. One of the last things I want to leave you with is, as you go into these offices, and we are doing things virtually, and this is a very different environment, I want to make sure that you're mindful of legislators may be busy. Build relationships with their staff. These are the people that are the gatekeepers as you go and have these meetings in the district or at the state capitol. These are the people that you want to get to know the best, because the legislator may be running a billion different ways during this legislative session. But if you can have a great connection with their staff, the scheduler, who whatever it is that is the gatekeeper for the legislative schedule, and you may want them to come to join you on walks or whatever that may be, things that you have going on throughout the year, those are the people that can help you out the most. So again, be encouraged. I saw someone ask a question about the 4 C's. 4 C's: concise, clear, compelling, and credible. So hopefully that's helpful. But again, like I said, be credible. Know that your story differentiates your issue, and thank the legislator. Again, thank them for their support. And these are all things that will make your meeting go a lot smoother. So happy to kind of answer any questions on the back end. I know people wrote things in the chat, but if you want to come off mute and ask a question, I'm happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask.
I guess I have a question / comment. Like sometimes legislators like to throw you a curveball and you don't know the answer. Like I always was taught, like, instead of like trying to make something up on the go, be like, I'll connect back with you on that.
Exactly.
So you get that second FaceTime, and you get to like, it's like great to admit you don't know something, because then 3 days later you get to make that phone call, or now with Zoom, and you get to see them again.
Exactly. And I agree with that. I think that you always want to let them know, you never make up information. That's a great way to have a bad relationship with the legislator. But let them know that you want to follow up. And, I think you made a great point, Greg, that think about what follow-up materials you want to give to legislators beforehand. Send a thank you email. I always tell people to, when you're in person, it's great to say, hey, do you mind if we take a picture? That way you can send the legislator a picture. You can have a reason to follow up in the back end. I know things are a little different via Zoom, so I'm not sure if you guys want to take a screenshot or whatever that may be. But at the end of the day, you want a reason to follow up. I think that you can also, if you have any materials that are, tell them a little bit more about HSC. Say, hey, I would love to send you some materials, because no legislator or staff is going to be able to download everything that you have to say in a 10-minute period. Sometimes it may be 5 minutes. So a follow-up is a great way to send them additional information, create a long-standing relationship, talk to the staffers, because normally you have to go through the staffer, and the member may have to, have them as the gatekeeper once again. But that's a great point. And, following up is an excellent point and an excellent way to build a relationship.
Thank you, Tony. So now that you guys all have that, understood, this is great. I don't see our legislator here yet, Adam Morgan. So we're going to just keep going.
Not yet.
Something has come up, so we'll see. But let's go ahead and let's listen to Aaron. So Aaron Smith is one of our board members. He's also on our Advocacy Coalition. I asked him just to say a few words about being in meetings, and he's done proclamations. He spoke at Washington Days. Aaron was new to all of this a couple of years ago. He has a small son. And I remember in the very first times, he was like, I'm really nervous here. Go get him, you got it. I think he's an expert now. So I thought, just show some people what it was like and how you got over some of your jitters. So Aaron, are you here?
I'm here.
There you are.
Hey, everybody. I'm Aaron Smith. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. My 3-year-old son, Logan, has hemophilia A. So we had no family history. We were thrown into this and just been kind of winging it the whole time. But we've done pretty good with everything, thanks to all y'all's help. And, the chapter's been there for us. So very thankful for that. But I really don't have anything else to say after Tony. He pretty much nailed it. So if y'all took notes, you're going to be great. But just kidding. He mentioned a few things. Was everything I was going to speak on. Basically, I wasn't terrified, but I'd never been in that situation before. So inherently I was pretty nervous there. But I can have a conversation with folks, and that's what you're asking for when you go in there. And once you kind of do it a time or two, or even just, be there with other people, you'll realize that you're just having a conversation with somebody else, another person. And that's something that we all have in common, is that we're all people. And most of the time, the politicians and legislators, they recognize that this isn't something that they haven't done before. So being nervous is, I think, completely natural, but it gets better with time. Like things Tony mentioned was practice, and some of our training that's offered through the chapter and other places really helps calm the nerves, so to speak. But with the practice, everything Tony mentioned, I mean, elevator speech, you kind of, when we had state days and even Washington days, and you're walking around the grounds, it's a little bit different. You might bump into the governor and he might invite you into his office in an impromptu, meeting. And you kind of need to have your story mapped out, which, last year that actually happened with us. I don't think we had any one-on-ones with the governor, but he certainly did invite us into his office, which was pretty incredible. But either way, we still had our elevator speeches, who we were, what we did, your story better than anybody else. So, just kind of have that in your head. If you were ever stopped by somebody, that you can tell them what you've been through. It's probably a unique story, and you want to have that one down pretty good. And have a pretty good understanding of the issues that you're trying to address. And a lot of that, again, is through the chapter training. So you're not going to walk in unprepared unless you want to be unprepared. And that's been something to kind of fall back on. So again, Tony nailed a lot of those things. I did a couple of times, and I'm not going to say I'm just completely comfortable with it, because like Greg mentioned, they could throw a curveball at you, but you kind of have in your back pocket all of the tools that you've been given to kind of be prepared for that as best as possible. And you got to keep in mind too, you've got a whole chapter of people that's got your back as well. And that's probably the most comforting part of all of it. And then, if you mess up, there will be another time, but I think the biggest thing for me is, building that, I'm going to say, personal relationship with these folks. I think that goes the furthest. And I've been trying really hard with my representative. They mentioned taking a picture. We took a picture, I think, 2 state advocacy days ago. So 2 years ago, I printed those pictures out and wrote a couple of notes with, the picture of us together with my son, and wrote a note on the back. So, the next year I went, whenever he saw our names, we weren't able to get a meeting with them. I don't know if Sue's already covered it or not, but, their time is overused. So if you get 5 or 10 minutes, you're doing pretty good. Hopefully with this virtual world, we can actually get a little bit more of that time. But, I had my name there. He remembered me. He asked I want to call her the admin that oversees a couple of legislators. She said, walk down to the House floor, put a note in, they'll page him and he'll come see you. And sure enough, he absolutely did. And we had a candid conversation for about 7.5 minutes in between votes. And it was very rewarding. And he remembered everything that, I'd sent him and everything else. So, they care. Again, they're there to represent you. And, knowing that kind of makes it a little bit easier to go into, future conversations. That's all I have, Sue.
You're
Anybody has
perfect.
questions?
Anybody have any questions for Aaron? And Representative Morgan is here, so this is wonderful. So we'll try to give him a little bit again of understanding of it. But here's where I get concerned. I know it seems like we're always trying to find we're always fighting to make sure that we can afford our medication. And every time we fight for something, then something else comes up, like this accumulator. And my concern is there is just not enough. I can't pay $5,000. There's not enough help in organizations to help everybody pay these deductibles or higher deductibles if you have them. So this is going to be a real difficult situation for us. And I've already heard people say, well, if I have to pay $8,000 that my deductible is to get my medication, I just don't have that. I won't do it. And so we're going to have people going to the emergency room. We're going to have people, I've heard that they've also been rationing their treatments. Instead of having one full dose, they'll have a half a dose, and then that just becomes an issue. So I'm excited that we have Rep. Morgan here. You guys can ask him some questions, but let's see, where is he at? Can you spotlight him for me, Greg?
Can you hear me or no?
Oh, there you are. All of a sudden, there you were. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Let me give you a little intro to everybody for Rep. Morgan. So thanks for taking the time with us. We had a mock meeting earlier, so we've kind of went through this. So we'll just do very casual. But Representative Adam Morgan is a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives. He's in the 20th district, serving since November 18th. Since November 2018, sorry. He represents the east side of Greenville, South Carolina, and the Taylors area, as Jordan said. He currently sits on the Education and Public Works Legislative Oversight Committees. Is that correct?
Yeah, the two different committees. One's legislative oversight, and then education and public works. Yeah.
All right, awesome. He's an attorney, composer, filmmaker, and the president of Majestic Music. He's married and has two beautiful children. And so we were just talking to you. We were mocking and having a mock-up with you. That's okay, in regards to some of the things that we're concerned about in South Carolina. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to first share with us a little bit of what some best practices or what you think. It's great to have you here because I know, it's very scary for many of our constituents to, meet with the representatives, and you're just a regular guy just doing such awesome work in South Carolina. So I just want to hear what you might have to share with us, and then I'll introduce you to my son, Jordan, again.
Yeah, well, I need to apologize, first of all, for being late. And also, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so literally as soon as I unmuted the microphone, it went silent in here. But my 1-year-old is currently screaming his head off, and we don't know exactly what's wrong. So you're probably going to hear that. So I greatly apologize for that. But anyway, I'm a little distracted because of it. That's partly why I forgot and was so late to the meeting. I came home instead of staying in Columbia, which sometimes we do, legislators, especially those of us that have over an hour commute. Anyway, so, but yeah, this is a much easier way to approach a legislator than going up when they're in chamber in a suit. It's very very much more normal. But yeah, I would say, I think last year we talked about kind of how to approach, like what's the best way to advocate for whatever issue you might want to, and there's the screaming. And I would say the best thing that I've learned just in the short time I've been there, the people that are the most effective and the groups that are the most effective, they are a regular presence, so they are always there. The members know their names, they know their organizations, and they're very respectful. And pardon that. We have a small house, so there's not really anywhere for him to go. So that's why.
I have 5 kids, so no worries.
Yeah, I know. I bet a lot of you have children, grandchildren, so you're.
That's right. No worries.
Anyway, but it's easy. Sometimes it can get frustrating when you're advocating for something and people don't get it. Legislators, members, they don't seem like they are listening, or don't make time, or they disagree. The best, in my perspective, one of the best things you can do is to be respectful and to, make sure your points are made, but just be kind and respectful, because a lot of times, even if a member might be initially opposed or unsure on something, if you can continue to build that relationship and work with them and talk to them, you can win them over, I would say, pretty quickly. But if you blow up at somebody, yell at them, saying they're an idiot, whatever, even if they are, you kind of burn that bridge. At least they see your name and they're like, that person's a nut job or whatever, even if you're not. So the best thing I could say is to be a regular presence, make sure they know your name. A House member does not have that many people. In theory, they do. We represent around 40,000 people, but in actual practice, there's not that many people that take the time to contact a House member. And so if you do, as a constituent, if you are contacting your representative, especially if you do it just a couple times, they're going to know your name or at least recognize it. And so I would say the best thing you do is just reach out. Senators are a little different. They have I think 3 times. They have 3 House members that make up a Senate district, so that's what 120,000, something like that. So it's a little bit more, but still, same thing. You would be shocked by how few people actually contact the legislator. Some of that's because of the nationalization of all politics. You know, a lot of people don't even know who their House or Senate member is. They only see what's on the national news every night. But that's where you have an outsized voice when you advocate for something to those people. It just matters so much more than an email to a U.S. senator or something that they're never going to see. Maybe a staffer might see it, but probably not. But when you're emailing me or calling me, it's directly me. And same thing with the other members. So anyway, those are kind of the 2 big things. And then just recognizing that your members are relatively ignorant on the subject matter you're coming with. And I know that might sound bad, and you might sit there and go, "Oh, how in the world did they're so negligent, they don't know about this." But the truth is, we cover so many topics; it's unbelievable. And I'm discovering the depths of my ignorance from being in the House, because one day we're talking about, one bill we're talking about insurance, the next we're talking about puppy mills, and the next we're talking about something with beach access, and then we're back to tax policy and monetary. It's just all over the place. So when you come with an issue, you're taking the time to inform them, and it's probably the first time they've even heard of what you're talking about. So just recognize that a lot of times, me and other members, you, especially as advocates, ones who are well informed by your organization, you're going to be a resource on whatever issue you're advocating for. So recognize that that's a big deal, and a lot of times members look to organizations, especially ones that have good content, that are giving you the facts quickly and keep getting you up to speed on it. We actually look to them for guidance on issues. And so it's so important to be in organizations that are advocating for things that you believe in or see as something that would make the state better. Did that answer the question? Or
No, it's perfect. In fact, and I really like the fact that you said, that you look for us for resources. So what I'm going to have Jordan talk to you about, which is the accumulated adjuster that is, and Colette can, share a little bit about that again, really briefly. But this is really a matter that I think is going to affect every South Carolinian in time, especially just because of the high cost of our insurance, our premiums. Those are on the marketplace. I'm just thrilled that we have the marketplace. It's always that backup, but the deductibles on there are high. That you can barely afford the premium as it is. But then when you have these rare diseases and problems that we have, and high cost of medication that people have to live off of, when we can't afford that medication because some of these things that are happening, the accumulated program, it's going to affect many South Carolinians that are going to be utilizing their full out-of-pocket maximum every single year that they have. I can't even imagine when we were raising all of our 5 children and 3 of them with hemophilia, if back in those days we had to come up with 15, 10, whatever would have been $1,000 for our children just to receive their medication. It would never have happened. We just didn't have that kind of money. So where's Jordan? Can you zoom in? This is Jordan. He's my son, and he lives only a couple blocks away from you, which is really cool. And he's gonna, Jordan, briefly tell him about the cost of the medication, but then the fact that last year, poor Jordan, he had some health problems, and he racked up $4,500, I think, in his out-of-pocket deductibles. He never met his maximum, right? So he's still paying those off from last year. But now, if next year this accumulated, well, it'll hit his program, his plan, if we don't find legislation or something. That's where I'm hoping we can enlighten you with this problem so that you can take it back. It's not just Jordan, it's not our rare disease, but it's cancer. It's anybody that has a high cost medication, I think, is going to be seriously shocked when all of a sudden they go to try to purchase their medication. There's no copay cards, no ability to use that. So Jordan, go ahead and tell them briefly, the issue here.
Yeah, well, good to see you again, Adam. I'm right over here off Taylor's Road, man. So right around the corner. you know, it's funny. You're like, hey, we get to be casual. I'm casual 24/7. So I went like,
Yeah.
we're still meeting. You know what I mean, buddy? But so going into it, really the importance of these pharmaceutical companies offering a copay assistance for our high paying medical costs. It costs me about $1,000 per unit. If, you know, going into myself, I take about 10 to 12 units per infusion. So that can be about $10,000, $12,000 just for one treatment. And that could be for something, we'll go funny with it. I now have this beautiful Harry Potter scar. Funny story, opened the door right into my forehead, split my forehead, had to infuse. $12,000, no stitches, nothing, you know. But it was to make sure, hey, my body healed. I had readily access to, you know, option to go ahead and infuse immediately at home. Didn't cost any ER bills, you know, or, you know, anything along those lines. But that's just for one treatment. It could possibly be 7, 8 treatments for just a simple procedure. Like my mother said, I've had just some normal procedures done through the year. And even just for a normal procedure coming into my mid 30s, which, you know, we all have to go get checkups and stuff like that. It, you know, cost me 3 full infusions at, you know, $36,000 in medication. And ultimately the accumulator adjustment program is, I have a $5,000 out of pocket and per year, and I get a $15,000 deductible, or, you know, factor card, as it would be called, for my medication. Well, I've got to pay $5,000 right out of my pocket. And as a single homeowner, one income, I have a home here. I live paycheck to paycheck. I run 2 studios, so I'm trying to do everything I can. And this would just be a huge, just catastrophe. I don't have $5,000 to give myself my medication. If I don't have my medication, that causes to permanent damage. It could be life threatening if it's a brain bleed, if it was something in the chest, the lungs, and I've got to have that. And, you know, this accumulator adjustment is kind of hitting that off. If I paid the $5,000, hey, the next 5,000, next 5,000, next 5,000, 4 months from now, I've got to fork out another 5,000 because I'm out of that, you know, copay assistance from the pharmaceutical companies. So for myself and for everybody else in the bleeding community and the rare disease community, it's a huge blow. And so, you know, here as always, reaching out to you for your help, your assistance to bring out the word, that for those of us that are trying to be good and get ahead, this would just destroy us on something that, you know, was a born with disorder.
Can you give me more background on what you're talking about? Going back to the ignorance, I don't want to act like I know exactly what you're talking about when I'm a little confused.
Would you like me to?
Yeah.
Because I just came in like right before when you said my name, I literally just jumped on.
Yeah, let's let Colette. It's so complicated, and Jordan, you did a fabulous job on it. But Colette, tell me a little bit. And the reason why is we're working with a lot of different patient advocacy groups. I think the American Cancer Association, MS. I'm trying to come up with some legislation that will stop this accumulators from happening in our insurance company. So Colette can do a great job. Go ahead, Colette.
So just to clarify though, so that's what you're talking about is filing legislation. It's not a bill that's in.
Not yet.
That's what I was trying to figure out if you were talking about a current legislation or if there was a bill that was going to change this that you didn't like, or but you're talking about one that needs to be filed.
I think we're going to drop it pretty soon. So hopefully, I think they're working on some language, but go ahead, Colette.
Yeah, so hello, I am Colette Koulianos. I'm with the National Hemophilia Foundation. And, you know, I'll try to boil it down. Copay accumulator adjustment programs are a new scheme, a lack of a better way to say it, that insurance companies have and pharmacy benefit managers, and it was actually the pharmacy benefit managers that started it first, is a way to push more responsibility, and I use quote unquote, onto the patients. But in actuality, and I'm going to explain what it is, it actually is a revenue generator for them. And so, all right, so patients who, like you just heard from Mr. Martin, who have high cost chronic diseases, and it's not just bleeding disorders, as you heard, it's MS, it's cancer, it's HIV, it's kidney disease. I mean, there's lots of chronic high cost conditions. They rely on high cost treatments, most of which of the highest cost communities like hemophilia, there are no generics. So there are no cheaper alternatives. And just to further clarify, the assistance that these patients get, it's not like the Sunday coupons that reduce the medication to $5. This assistance acts as a lifeline for patients to be able to access their medications. So up until 2017, when the first one of these showed up, patients who needed assistance were able to get assistance, whether it was from the pharmaceutical company in the form of a copay card or a third-party nonprofit that gave out assistance to needs-based folks, or if it was grandma and grandpa or anyone, you would be able to get help paying your drugs. You would use that at the time you accessed your medication, and it would count towards your out-of-pocket responsibility. So when they started these copay accumulator adjustment programs, they said, we're going to change the rules. You can still use the assistance, but we're no longer going to let it count to your out-of-pocket. You have to pay your out-of-pocket. So it isn't just pharmaceutical assistance they're shunning, it's any assistance. And in fact, lately it's been very clear, and they will highlight, no third-party nonprofits, no assistance. So patients who have, and I don't care what your income range is, you can make a lot of money and still be depleted very quickly if it came to some catastrophic healthcare costs. So folks, they have a finite income. Most folks in South Carolina, the median household income being like just under $54,000. And they have to pay out of that their house, their kids, their car, their school, the clothes, the food, as you know, all these things, and their premiums to get their insurance. Then after they do that, then they have what's your deductibles, your co-pays, your co-insurance until they meet their max out of pocket. Now, fortunately, there's a threshold, but that threshold is $8,550. So the most you're going to be responsible for this year is $8,550 for one person, double that for a family. So once you pay your premium and all those other costs, you now have to meet those other burdens. And if you have a deductible on your plan, and 80% of folks have a deductible on their health plan. So if you have a deductible, you have to pay the entire deductible before the plan pays the first penny. So before these accumulator adjustment programs, patients were fortunate who needed it. They could use that assistance. It would help meet their deductible. Well, now they say, well, take the assistance, but it's not going to count. Well, these assistance dollars are finite. They're not infinite. So if a manufacturer or one of these organizations offers assistance and it's $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever that value is, once that runs out, it's done for the year. So if you have a deductible, and by the way, in South Carolina, the average deductible is about $3,600 for an individual. If you have a deductible, you have to meet the whole deductible before the plan pays the first penny. So they would use the assistance for the first few months until that ran out. Then they reset the members out of pocket to only reflect what they pay. And once that assistance runs out and the patient goes to get their meds, they say, how are you going to pay your deductible? Now, if you have a $3,600 deductible, or in the case of Mr. Martin, a $5,000 deductible, or all the way up to the max out of pocket, it could be anywhere in between. You have to come up with that money or you're not getting your meds. And that's where it's become catastrophic for a lot of chronic disease patients, not just the bleeding disorder community. And so in states like Virginia, West Virginia, Georgia, Arizona, Illinois, they have passed anti-accumulator bills, not allowing this practice in their states. And there's 21 other states in the process of passing this legislation. And And so we're asking South Carolina to join in stopping this practice where these insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers are collecting the deductible and copays multiple times. They're collecting it as many times as they can until that money runs out, and then they're collecting it again from the member. And that's, so it's, you'll hear from them that they have to do it because it makes healthcare more expensive. No, it's actually a revenue generator for them. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, and I really, truly do appreciate your time. And I want to say you have a baby face, and it's just hard for me to take you serious. Like, I'm like, he doesn't even look old enough to be a legislator, so that's a good thing.
I'm not 30. No, thank you so much. That definitely helped. And now I'm definitely on the same.
Okay, good. And so always happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Sue can share my contact information should you have any along the way.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm really glad you brought it to my attention. And Sue, I'm sure you're going to be sending out information on, I guess you have model legislation, right? If you said several states have already passed it.
Yep.
Is there somebody already bringing it in the House or Senate?
They are working on it right now, trying to get the best language. I think several advocacy groups, of which Colette is part of, is trying to find the right language that would work well in South Carolina. So I think in the next, they said maybe the next 3 weeks or so, we might have some model legislation that would like to introduce. So and I think we're just trying to find. I was hoping, and I think they were trying to figure out where it would sit. If it's in the medical or if it's in insurance. And I know that Senator Ross Turner is my senator, and he's in the insurance. So I didn't know if it was within him. So I'm hoping to be able to talk to him a little bit about it, and maybe he'd introduce it, or Leon Howard or whoever might have that opportunity. But I'm hoping that you can spread the news and just kind of let everybody know, because I do think when patients can't access their medication, and like I said, I don't know about you, but back in the day, I couldn't come up every single year with $5,000 just out of nowhere and pay for medication. And it's critical for patients, and it really worries me a lot.
Yeah, 2/3 of Americans can't afford $500 in case of emergency, sadly. So it really is catastrophic. And when they can't get their meds, especially a bleeding disorder patient, their only option is, when they have a bleed, they can't not do anything, because they could technically, if it was a major bleed or a head bleed, they could die, or they could end up with permanent joint damage. They're going to go to the hospital or the emergency room, which is going to be much higher cost for the insurer. So it's a short-sighted decision. But it's also pushing patients into like the COVID hotspots. For themselves, not good, because they have pre-existing conditions. And why would we overtax the hospital people who are already overtaxed in light of the circumstances with COVID? So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Colette.
Thanks, Bimbo.
Thank you. And we do have legislation already in the House with Leon Howard for the Rare Disease Advisory Council. That's just a bill to support building a rare disease advisory council in South Carolina. It was introduced last year, and then of course COVID hit. So we would like to see that go through to the end. So we'll be sending you information on that as well. So on that note, does anybody else have any questions? Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time with us tonight. It's wonderful to see you again, and maybe Jordan will see you jogging around the neighborhood. But we'll get back with you soon and send you some more information once we get everything all put together.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for having me. And Jordan, if you want to find my house, it's the one with the roof torn off because the tree fell on it. From that
Oh,
you can't miss it.
well, hey, if you guys need to come run it away, I'm at Orange Theory Greer, right up the street, man. Come see me. I got you guys covered. It'll be an honor, dude.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that was wonderful. Hopefully y'all saw how wonderful it is to speak to your legislators. They're just regular people, just want to hear your concerns. So thank you, Colette. Thank you all for hearing that a couple of times. Hopefully we've got that well understood. Just so that you know, we will be sending you packets. It's going to come in some of our other slides really quick. We'll go through those just fast because of the time. But we will be sending you all the talking points that you can use so that you can learn that information a little bit better and study it a little bit better, and then share that information when you're having your meetings. But let me just quickly go through how we're going to do these meetings with you guys. Because I know that
If you don't have anything else for me, Sue.
I don't, Colette. Thank you.
Okay.
I will let you go, and I appreciate you
Yep.
always hopping on, and let's get that legislation started. I think it'll be great.
Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Colette.
Thank you, Colette.
Okay, guys, so just, I know you're probably going like, what, how are we going to do this? So many of you have already received notice from Jeremy in regards to meetings that we're making. So he's calling and he's emailing your legislators. They're, they're doing really good. They're giving us times. We're going to try to coordinate, and I'm trying to figure out how we're going to be on Zoom at all different times for 3 or 4 days. We also will be possibly, I know some of them, I had my meeting tonight. Some people are having, Renita has one on Thursday. So you may not have it during just those 3 days, the 9th, the 10th, 11th. We're trying to plan them all on the 10th, but if you get a different day, don't worry about it, take it. It's all during the month of the Bleeding Disorder Awareness Month, so that's totally fine. One thing, just a quick little note is when we do get your date set and you agree, your legislator agrees, I will make the Zoom meeting, send them to Jeremy. We'll be making sure that you have all the logins and stuff, and so that you have those links. But just please go ahead and log in. If we can, I will try to be on every meeting or turn them on like 10 minutes early, just so that we make sure that you are logged in well and you have everything set. Again, we will be sending you your legislators packets with materials. I'm hoping, I did send a packet to Rep. Morgan. Maybe he didn't get it in time, or maybe he did, I'm not sure. But we will be sending talking points and concerns and information about HSC and stuff to your legislators prior to their meetings, to your meetings. We will also be sending you the same thing with some other things to be thinking about, some do's and don'ts, and some information about HSC. So those will come next week. We are going to have the final signups on February 19th. So that's this Friday. So if you want to participate in Advocacy Days and you haven't signed up already, you have till Friday, and then we're going to have to sign off on that so that we can get everything put together. We will have somebody with you at all times. And I pretty much can guarantee that, but I hate if somehow we had 2 meetings at the same time. Couldn't find anybody, but we won't leave you alone. I think that you guys have got a really good understanding of how these things go today. I'm thrilled that he was able to be on, so you can see the interaction. And like he said, just know what you want to ask him and provide that to him. But we have 36 meetings scheduled, so I'm really excited. For now, we have 21 member families, so that's very impressive. So thank you to all of you. So on that note, I'm gonna, I think we're gonna skip around since our time has, we've had, we had a little double there. Who has some questions for us in regards to just that portion of how are these meetings gonna be handled? Does anybody? Anything that you're concerned with? You kind of got this whole virtual thing down. You understand what we're doing?
So does that mean that with every meeting that we get to have, someone from the chapter will be with us on that Zoom meeting?
Yes, that is our, and that is our promise. I mean, I'm not going to guarantee that because, as we get closer, who knows what will happen. But I know Nathan said that he will help us out. Greg's available. I'm available. Jeremy's available. Any of our coalition members that, if it's a time that maybe they're not working or whatever. I know that it's hard because people are working, but you will have that very small window of time. And, we plan on being there. I just don't know with the Zoom, how that's going to, overlap or whatever, but our goal is to be there with you in case they have some questions, or just to be your backup. We go to Washington Days next week, and we have an NHF member with us, and we've been to Washington Days 10 times now, but it's just a matter of having somebody there with you, just I think for support. So yes, we will be there with you.
Okay. And so how long, because I know that Jordan and you got all that information in with that meeting. how long are generally the time frame that we're given? Because do some of them do we have a time slot of 15 minutes and then have to just coordinate that? Or do you already know how long we have?
So we're making them for 15 minutes. So you'll have 15 minutes. Say we're on with you, Laura, and I've got to start another meeting in a few minutes. I will, if I can, I will leave you on and make you an admin so that you can go ahead and keep we're still trying to figure this out. We're trying not to have them 15, 15, 15, 15. But if they're able to sit on with you a little bit longer, that's fine. But I would plan 15 minutes, or, that was a long meeting, just, with extra stuff going on or whatever.
But it's all good information. I mean, every bit of it was good information. So I'm trying to think in my mind, how do you squish everything together and get the story across?
So let me show you, Greg, I'm going to skip around. Let's see. So we're going to have talking points. Let me see. So each one of you guys are going to have, now these are just some of the information, but you're going to be sent these talking points. This is our HAP program. This was the Hemophilia Assistance Program that we are working on this year in our meetings. This is the premium assistance that's paid for by the state of South Carolina. We have people that are on it. 16 individuals currently utilize it. If those of you that know the PSI programs, this is kind of like that, but this actually the state actually pays PSI to purchase or to help you purchase a marketplace plan when you have absolutely nowhere else to go. This is a phenomenal program. I know that in many other states, I've talked to many of my colleagues, they do not have anything like this. So you can get a South Carolina marketplace insurance, the copay assistance. And, now I'm interested in what's going to happen with the accumulator. If the state funds have to pay all of those premium or all of those total out of pocket, will that take funds from the total available funds for the HAP program? So you're going to get this in your packet and you'll be able to, use it. This is, like I said, just a few of the lines. I didn't want to put the whole entire, everything that's on there, the talking points, but you can go through and talk about those. Now, one thing I do want to say is you'll notice I didn't say anything because I knew that my importance for my family was sharing our story about bleeding disorders, but about the accumulator and about the rare diseases, because for my family, had somebody picked up on the fact that the kids were bleeding, maybe they had a bleeding disorder because it was so rare. That means a lot to me. The Rare Disease Advisory Council means a lot to me to be able to help our legislators and those that make policies and to spread the information, resources and stuff for people with rare diseases. So that was important to me. So if it's too much for you, share your story, make those connections, and maybe just pick one of these. If you're on a HAP program, maybe that's the one you want to pick. Here's some information about the Rare Disease Advisory Council. This bill, H3233, is already been introduced by Leon Howard, Ivory Thigpen, and Lonnie Hosley, and it's in the 3M committee right now. I would like to see this start moving. We are hoping that after our legislative days, we can get in and get this through committee. Right now, it is combined with the Newborn Screening Advisory Committee. That was already something the state had. They want to rename it and add rare disease to it. We are working with NORD and other patient advocacy groups and would love to see if we can just have the Rare Disease Council and then keep a newborn screening council. So we're working to kind of see if we can amend some of that language, but we are in support of the bill H3233. So maybe that's one that you want to do. If you think you can wrap all these off, that's awesome. And, we really appreciate that. And then of course, we have the accumulator adjuster program. And hopefully we'll have, I'm hoping that I will have some flyers on this and also on the Rare Disease Council. that we're waiting for that to come in. So
Okay.
those are just some of the things, some of the things that you guys, let me stop sharing my screen for a minute. So does that make sense to everybody here a little bit? Okay, good.
Now,
Yes.
one of the questions, not to interrupt,
Yeah.
now the talking points that you had brought up, is that can we kind of veer off of some of that, to try to with our stories and some of the things that we're personally fighting for?
So that's funny that you asked that question, because that happened today in Washington Day's conversation. So the main purpose is I want you to be able to make these relationships with your legislators. That's the number one, and explain to them what a bleeding disorder is and how it affects your family. You are there on behalf of the chapter and our organization, and we have a very good reputation. As he said, we show up. This is our 12th year. So we want to kind of stick to the points of what we want to get, that we want to get pushed through. But if you have something and it's part of your conversation with him that you think, will help him better understand some of the troubles or the concerns or the challenges you have with living with the bleeding disorder, that's part of your message. But keep that to the teaching part of it, of what a bleeding disorder is and how it affects your life. And then, go into some of the issue that we have. Now, the Rare Disease Advisory Board, I think, or the bill, that fits everybody. You are all part of a rare disease. So, that would be an easy one in your telling your story, that you would support that, because there's many things in that Rare Disease Council will share your voice and help. You'll have people in there that are, doing research and advising and doing a lot of different things that you can get, that you can definitely support. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So just closing down a little bit, if nobody has any other questions, I'm going to pull back up my screen if you bear with me just one more minute. And I'm going to have Greg share something really fast with you. And I'm sorry that it took a little bit long, but that's one of those things that happen when we have, things happen. We learn how to pivot. But before we share the last few things, in case somebody does need to leave, I do again want to thank our sponsors, Pharma, Genentech, Takeda, Octapharma, CSL Behring, and Drug Co., part of our sponsors for our advocacy days. It helps us do the work that we do. And then again, these companies down here, which is part of the NHF grant. But more importantly, that we will have one last meeting on March 9th at 7, just to check in and make sure everybody knows what they're doing going forward. If you've already had a meeting, that'll be really cool, because then you can share with us, like, some do's and don'ts or some things that you learned that might have helped us all. So plan on that. We'll send out the link and all that kind of stuff a little bit later as we start making your packets. But also, I just want to, let me go back up here really quick. Greg was going to just be really quick on a couple of things. That this is the Phone to Action campaign. And I'm going to let him share a little bit about that, because this is going to be really important when we do drop those bills. This platform will help us draft language and hurry up and get stuff out to everybody. So Greg, go ahead and share this really quick and make sure everybody.
I'm going to make this super quick because I know we are running over time. All right. So we started utilizing the Phone to Action platform for state days, and we just want to make sure everyone has signed up using the image on the left, the enter your name and information to sign up. Has everybody on this group have done that? You should have. Yes, I'm seeing some nodding. Gene, you're all right? Maybe you don't know. Okay. If you haven't, let us know. We will help you walk through it. I had some problems. I talked to Jeremy through it, so we can help you. And then part two. What?
I said we're still working out the kinks.
Yeah, we're working out the kinks. It's a little hinky. We thank NHF for helping us with this, though. Part two is everyone should have also received the text on the right. This one was the one to schedule the meeting with your local rep for state days. I know some of you couldn't make it to advocacy days, so you didn't schedule the meeting, but we just want to make sure you're still getting the texts. and the notifications. So did everybody, does this look familiar to you kind of? Because the big thing is you can still participate in state days if you haven't. Like Sue said, we have until Friday, but we want to make sure everyone's receiving the text, because as we have more legislative actions coming up through the year, we want to be able to make sure we can quickly reach you guys, so you can reach out to your reps and senators and say, hey, there's an accumulator adjuster bill dropping. We want to make sure you guys support it. And, can you please do that? Also, on the flip side, the one thing that we don't want to happen is, let's say we have budget cuts and they want to cut half. We want to be able to quickly, mobilize and say, hey, we need to keep the HAP program. This is, helping our members stay alive and not die. So any questions about phone to action? Speak now. Forever hold your peace. You guys are all married to it now. Congratulations. All right, so proclamations. Please, if you're doing the proclamations, please start contacting your towns, cities, and counties soon. Most municipalities take 30 days of lead time to process the proclamations, so our window for getting them in March is starting to close. If they leak into April, that's fine, but we'd like to try to get everything done into March. So below, here's the part, we got part of the spreadsheet for Abbeville County there. And this is the spreadsheet that we'll send out that has who the contact people are, their phone numbers, or their emails. And you can contact them about the process. If it doesn't fall, if you reach out, like let's say I call Blake Stone and it isn't in his department anymore, please, he'll let you know who it is, but please also let us know so we can update our files. If you decide you do want to go out for a proclamation this year, let's say I'll call Blake. You just call up and say, hi, Mr. Stone, I'd like to get a proclamation from the city of Abbeville this year, recognizing March as Bleeding Disorder Awareness Month. What do you need from me? They may ask for sample language, which we'll provide in a future slide here. And then they'll let you know what's ready to go. If you want to email, we have created this template that we'll send out to you. And it's basically plug and play. You put in my name, the town you're living in and you're getting it from, you're addressing it to the mayor or the council member, that you have a family member or you personally are living with a bleeding disorder, and that you want to have your city, county recognize March. It's a lot of boilerplate stuff, but then do briefly discuss why it personally affects you. You live with it. You think it's important that, again, Abbeville recognizes it because, you're a resident. You have the right to be recognized. And then a bunch of other boilerplate. And then we have the sample language that they'll ask for because, or they may not ask for it, but you can include it because this way they don't have to do anything. You just send it to them. They'll plug and play it. They'll print up their proclamation and, it's good to go. If you get a proclamation, let us know because we are trying to, mark them all. Like right now, Sue has done Greer and Greenville County. I have done Anderson and Anderson County. We're going for the state. Our target this year is 40 proclamations. Also, feel free to recruit loved ones. I mean, my dad is going after Simpsonville. My mother-in-law is going after Fountain Inn. They like Sue. So they're like, hey, we have a family friend who has a bleeding disorder, feel free to recruit them. Is there any questions about proclamations? I will say, I don't know if it's here in South Carolina. I do know in other municipalities, they are trying to do less and less proclamations with COVID because they don't want to have everybody, coming in and doing all the other things. And then if you do something, if they do offer a proclamation and you're comfortable with going, you have masks, we can get you another mask. Bring somebody along to take pictures because we're going to add it to our Facebook, our Instagram, our Bleeding Disorder Awareness Month, and we'll also submit it to the local news, print media. I got some history doing that kind of stuff, so we can do a great cut line, byline. That's good for you individually, and it's good for the organization because it gets us out there. Any questions
Hey, Tim, I know that you said earlier that you had a question on a proclamation. Did you want to share that now? Or did we, I think we
We may have
might-
lost him.
Yeah, he might be,
Oh, there he is.
I'm sorry, the technical, I'm having problems with technical tonight.
yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. Did you want to ask a question about the proclamation, something you had? Or
Hey,
later?
for the most part, it just from what he said right there, is it, I mean, if my son's under 18, is it okay for him to come with me to do that too?
Oh, gosh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that was
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
only one that I had on that one there. So
He's
no,
a
I've got,
citizen. This
Yeah.
is available to any citizen. You can have
Okay.
a 1-year-old newborn. They are a citizen of that they're a citizen of the US. They're a citizen of South Carolina. They're a citizen of the county. They're a citizen of their town. They
Okay.
have the right to request.
Yeah, and again, we'll send out tomorrow. So tomorrow
Yeah.
or Thursday, I'm gonna mark your name. So now it's like tag you're it. I
And-
want you to say, oh, okay, I'll do that. I swear, all it is literally is copy, paste, here, send it, and then follow up. And then, ask. And we'll do the best we can. We are known in South Carolina for like doing the most. So I don't want to ruin our reputation, but I do know we're all stressed. It's a lot going on, and it's a lot with them going on. If they don't want to have a meeting, that's totally fine. But if we get the proclamation, I think what I keep hearing, and we'll close on this, is always showing up. If we're always showing up, we're there. These guys are like, oh my God, that hemophilia group is coming down, or whatever, or if something goes on. I've heard people say, I don't want to deal with Sue. I think that's a great blessing, because it's like, that's right. Don't make me mad, because, I'm taking care of our people here. So, those are good things. So if you can show up, we appreciate that. I know that was a lot to absorb tonight, so I appreciate you all being here. It took quite a while. Again, just watch your emails. I think that's the most important thing. I wish I can call everybody all the time, but it's very hard to do that. So we'll send out tomorrow or Thursday the proclamation listing of who you can contact. Just say, oh, okay, I'll try it, Sue. The email, copy, paste, and then you just tell them, here's the language, and put a little bit of your personal in there, and you're done. It takes literally about 10 minutes. So feel free to do that. I appreciate that.
And if you need
And,
assistance, reach out to us. I can
we can
walk you
help.
through the process. We can help. It's not a,
It's no, and if you don't have the internet or the emails or whatever, no problem. But on that note, guys, I'm going to let you go. I know it was a long night. I do appreciate it. Start working on your stories, and let's take a picture. Anybody that's still on that can put their camera on. Let's see. Oh, what a nice Abbott. We're in the process of the newsletter. So that's a nice looking picture. Let's try to see. Oh, there we
Jordan,
go.
what'd you make for dinner? What is that? Oh, unmute it.
So I got told that it was National Pancake Day. And so I was like, you know what? I haven't had dinner yet. So I just made breakfast for dinner.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like donut day. It's like
Also-
German donut day or something.
The 22nd is National Margarita Day. I feel like everybody should know that.
Oh, we're on that one, Jordan.
I'll be,
All right.
I'll be doing breakfast for dinner at about 3 o'clock.
There we go.
That's when the hubby gets home. So
All right, everybody smile, take a picture of this advocacy group. It's just so awesome. Are you ready? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, smile. Oh, you guys are the best.
Beautiful.
It's a long night. I do appreciate you. Seriously, you are simply the best. So wish us
We'll
all
be
luck on the meetings, and we'll just be in touch a whole bunch with callings in the next couple weeks. So take care. Love y'all, and again,
bye-bye.
the best. Take care. Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Bye-bye.